Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon to everybody. And just start out, following up on what he just said, Steve just said about Tyler and Phil. So congratulations to both those guys. Tyler's a first-class young guy, a really good football player, but a first-class young guy, and just happy for him. And then Phil's done a great job here for 22-plus years now, so not surprised at all by that. So just, real briefly, it's a short week right now, so a couple words about Illinois. First and foremost, happy to get the win, to get our 9th win. As I've said all along, winning isn't easy in college football. A lot of parity out there, and, each week's an adventure, so happy about that. Happy about the growth I think we, continue to see in our football team. Certainly pleased about that. And, a lot of good things out there the other day. Got off to a little bit of a slow start there, certainly on defense that first possession. Had the problem on the punt, and next thing you know, the defense is in the hole, but they did a great job getting off the field, only giving up a field goal, and then certainly Charlie and the entire kick return unit gave us a big spark, with that touchdown to get us right back within 3 points, and real momentum swing there. But I think overall, our lines are growing on both sides of the football. Again, the response was good, and we're making some plays at critical times, so it's certainly good. And 12-week season, our goals pretty much remain consistent all the way through the year. We're trying to win each and every game that we're in, and most importantly, try to show improvement. So I think we're doing that this past month. Happy about that. Good to see. Shifting our eyes to Nebraska now. Our captains will be the same 4 guys. We'll have Tyler Linderbaum offensively, Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner, and Jack Campbell defensively. Injury-wise, Matt's definitely out. And then, everybody else is kind of on the iffy spot right now. Kerner looked okay today. We'll see how long he can go. Terry Roberts, I think, is still iffy. And Mason Richmond, I think, has a chance. We'll see how he holds up throughout the week, but just kind of go from there. And, when you look at Nebraska, we're looking at a real big challenge right now. You put the film on. We're not surprised. We play them every year, but they're a very talented football team. The talent matches their stats. They do an awful lot of good things, offensively, defensively, special teams as well. So, it's going to be a big, big challenge for us. They're playing hard. They're competing. Going on the road, playing over there is never easy. And, certainly playing for a trophy is a big deal for both teams, I'm sure. So that's a big deal as well. And certainly sorry to hear about the quarterback situation. You hate to see any player get injured at any time of the season. And, it's just it's unfortunate. So we certainly wish him well. And it's kind of reality of college football too right now this time of year. Players are out, players are nursing injuries and those types of things. But it's certainly sad news because he's a really electrifying performer. And last but not least, our kid captain this week is Blake Burdorf. I'll be okay on that. From Shenandoah, and just give you a little bit about his story. He was born with a kidney issue, ended up having a transplant at age 2, and then experienced a serious infection. So he really had to fight through an awful lot of things, but he's a 10-year-old now. Told he's a real big sports fan, so we're certainly glad that he'll be wearing, the black and gold, and he's out there in Western Iowa. So hopefully he can stay strong because it's split territory as I understand it. So, and we'll be thrilled to have him represent him this weekend. And I'll throw it out for questions.
Kirk, does this Nebraska team feel like their record is not indicative of how good they may be?
Yeah, you start by looking at the stats, which, I've been watching those all season long with everybody, and then you see the film more importantly. Yeah, they've got, they've always had good players. It seems like each and every year they've got guys that are hard to defend and hard to block, and I think that's certainly the case. And for whatever reason, they just, they've played in so many close games. It's tough. We've been there, so there's nothing fun about those. But yeah, you watch them on film; they do an awful lot of things well. They're really extremely diverse offensively, a million things to prepare for, and element of the unknown now a little bit. But they're just they move the ball, they score points, and defensively, I think they're much improved from 4 years ago.
How have you seen this offensive line progress as they've gotten a lot more experience this year?
Yeah, it's been slow, really slow, but I think this past month has been encouraging. It starts in practice, just walking off the practice field. And part of that's guys being able to practice with some consistency. That's where injuries really get you. They hurt you on game day, certainly, but it's that development, especially with offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and it's really true in any position, but, it really shows there, and I think it was showing on the field. But I think our guys are playing with a little bit more confidence now. I'm not saying we're the monsters of the midway by any stretch, but we're closer to where we need to be, I think, and it's encouraging because you're watching younger guys develop a little confidence in themselves, and, rightfully so, or a guy like Kyler who's, back in decent shape now, so he can look like a football player again, and that, cohesively, that helps us a little bit.
When you look back on Alex's tape from Saturday, how would you review him, and has he been taking the ones this week?
Yeah, I think he did a good job, and if we're playing tomorrow, he'll be our quarterback. So, he did a good job, and just qualified again. I think Spencer did a really good job too, and Spencer's really practicing well also. So he's been a good teammate first and foremost, but he's also ready to go in case something happens. And so if there's a good thing that came out of this injury, it's at least now we got two guys that have played in games, and that's encouraging. So focus right now is getting through this week.
Why, I feel like I ask you every year on this week, but why have you feel like you've been so successful on these short preparations for Nebraska in particular?
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind for me would be our players, just being willing to accept the challenge, that it is a challenge. It's a shorter, more condensed period of preparation. We try to be careful about what we ask them to do, physically and mentally, but ultimately they're really, focus their time and spend it wisely, or they don't. And the one, thing that helps a little bit is that we're not in class. So at least they've got more time to themselves now, and just try to, I think they still have some time to, you can't play football or study football all day long. At least they can't. So we encourage them to really just kind of condense things, do what they got to do, and then, everybody can relax on Saturday. It's our day off this week, so we'll all take a break there.
Do you have much film on Smothers, the quarterback that they'll probably play?
Not really. I think, they might have dug some up from junior high. Those guys are pretty creative back there. But spring game, I guess, and, that type of thing. But it's not the same, So, but, we have an idea who he is and what he is, and he's fast. I know that.
So do you go back? Your guys go back to like the huddle videos that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got some young guys back there that are pretty creative. So I'm not sure what we get out of that, but yeah. Oh, yeah. I tease them about that stuff. Yeah. I swear to God, probably junior high. Reese, if Reese was one of our young guys back there, he'd probably be in the junior high stuff and tell you what the nurse said and all that stuff. School nurse. Yeah.
If Mason can go, is he moving back in at left tackle then, or are you going to rotate?
Yeah, we'll probably rotate. Really pleased that, I mentioned guys growing. I think Jack and Nick both have done, probably played as well this past Saturday as they have since they've been here. Not that they're, 5-year guys, but that is important. Like they're both growing, and Mason was really, I thought, starting to hit stride there when he got hurt, unfortunately. So, we kind of went from, do we have a tackle? Maybe we have 3 guys now that can hold the fort a little bit, and that's encouraging.
Cooper DeJeans in the 2 deeps. I think when he came in, you guys kind of
we're the few that prod the free right now. So yeah,
you kind of put him at safety. Now he's listed at corner. Is he going to be a corner moving forward?
We'll see. We're thin right now. With Matt being out for sure, and we're thin. So we'll see what happens. But he's playing on special teams, and he wants to play. He wants to compete, and he's doing a really good job. He's doing a good job on special teams. So full speed ahead with him.
That decision. He's already played 4 games now,
Yeah.
and is that kind of the track you talked about earlier in the year, like T.J. Hawkinson? Now you would just move him in, and so is that where Cooper's at? That he's playing.
I've definitely changed my mindset, and I think it's ultimately up to the player, though. The players get the top vote in their families. So if they're, I go back. I was just talking to somebody about that. Whatever there it would have been, 2000, 2001. I think it was 2000, where you had Hinkle, Greenway, Hodge, leaving somebody out. Roth chose to play, and then I'm leaving one other guy off. But 4 of them they wanted to sit out and be 5th-year seniors, which is really, that wouldn't happen today. So that's the difference 2 decades later. But, I know we're playing for today as coaches, and I think the whole team's playing for today, and I think that's Cooper's attitude too. And he I don't know how many snaps he'll play, but he's getting a lot of work in practice, so he's moving fast too, and it's really fun to see him go.
Tory Taylor told us a little while ago that he's definitely coming back, and this may be something that you've known for quite some time and just take it for granted, but can you address that? I mean, I'm sure your feelings are obvious about it, but just how do you feel about it?
He I've joked about Torrey, whatever that show was with Robin Williams. Remember, he came down from, what was the name of the show? I date myself. Yeah, okay, Mork and Mindy. He's kind of like that. I mean, he's just so, naive's not the right word because that has a negative connotation in this case, but he's so fresh. Like he's just, like going to Purdue last year, it was his first football game and everything's kind of new to him. I think he's really enjoying the ride right now, and we talked over the break, the bye week, and that was kind of my sense that he's fixed on coming back one more time, and then that'll probably be it. But he's just been not only a really good player on the team, but just such a positive addition to our football team because he really appreciates each and every day. I guess he's kind of like Mekhi Sargent in some ways, where Mekhi wasn't recruited out of high school. Iowa Western comes here, and it's just like every day was a walk in the park for him. He just really enjoyed it, and Torrey's got some of the same appreciation. There's a freshness to it that's really unique, and even that NIL deal where he, for whatever reason, I don't know why he can't collect on NIL because he's not from America. I mean, I don't understand that rule either. But we'll have a press conference next week on stuff I don't understand. But anyway, so I mean, but he handled that in stride, and found a way to make that a positive. So, and didn't seem to affect him at all. He's just. It's unique how much he's enjoying this experience and thoroughly enjoys his teammates, and he's really good for his teammates.
Kirk, Torrey talked about, how much he appreciates guys on the punt, the special teams, the punt return, and how much these guys take pride in at Iowa. And he said to other schools, you really don't get a lot of guys like that. I mean, how do you guys get these players to really buy into special teams?
Well, we've always, going back 20 plus years, we've always tried to just educate our players that everybody on the team is important. Like they wouldn't be here if we didn't think that. And I've always encouraged our staff, reminded me, if we don't want to coach a guy, then we shouldn't have him on the roster. We invited them. They're all here because we invited them, and we should treat them that way. And, so we try to give everybody a chance to be coached and show what they can do. And then right along with that, so whether you're on the look team, which a lot of younger guys are, and we've got older guys. A guy like Henry Marquez who threw a huge block on the kick return the other day. During the week he's either running pass routes or playing defense against our offense or our defense. So, just a not really unselfish guy. But I think guys understand, the good guys understand. Everybody's got a role, and special teams are huge. And boy, we saw that Saturday. It caused a little bit of the turmoil with that snap and going through Torrey's legs, but then flipped it right around and got us back in the game. We did some really good things on special teams. So I think our guys get it that everybody counts and everybody potentially could have a role to help us win.
There have been years in which Shudak and Taylor, I think, could have been finalists for their national awards.
Yeah.
But there seem to be so many great kickers now in football, kickers and punters. Any explanation as to why?
No, other than the Australian influx really seems to have impacted things. And I think it was a couple, 3 years ago when I caught that. It was probably maybe the Pinstripe Bowl year because I was watching the Outback Bowl and everything. It was Dusty Dvorak talking about it. And since then, you just see more and more. But more locally, I guess I'm not as aware nationally, but our conference this year, you guys have seen it. For the punters and kickers have been, it seems like every week, somebody's got a guy that can really do something well. And last week, both those guys were just exceptional. So it's like, wow. I don't know if the COVID thing has part of that to do with it, but I can't remember a year where we've had this many punters and kickers that were so strong week after week.
You probably know this, but there's only 3 teams you've had in a 10-win regular season, which would be 02, 09, and 15. This team has a chance to become your 4th regular season.
Yep.
Have you talked to them about that, and what does that say about this team that they're on the cusp of something like that?
Yeah, early in the week, I on Sunday basically we just kind of hear where are we at now, one of those deals, and then that's it. But certainly point that out to them, yeah, absolutely, because it's significant. And if you can win 10 games at any time, I think it's been done 9 times. I think in the history of this program, 10 games is pretty significant. So if we could get to that. And it'd be better now in the regular season, certainly sooner the better. But it's like a couple of weeks ago, you can't get to 10 without getting to 7 or 6 or whatever. So it's just kind of a week at a time. And yeah, we always give them the big picture and then just get right back to what's on tap here for this week.
After those two tough losses, especially the one against Wisconsin because it came off a bye, your team got off the mat and went and won a tough game at Northwestern and then won 2 since then. How were you able to do it? And it seems like you do things like this all the time, but it's not easy. So how were you able to do it this time?
My answer would be just kind of like Saturdays. It gets down to players and you having the right guys. And I don't know that our message is anything special necessarily. Probably be like anybody else's that went through a loss or whatever. But it really gets down to the players and the amount of pride they've got and the resiliency. And then go back to Andre Tippett talking to the team a week ago Friday, just saying, grit and resiliency, talking about the 81 ball club. And good teams, that's what they have. They got to have that because this is a tough racket, what we do. And the other part that goes right along with that is leadership. I know that 81 team had good leadership. It was really stood out to me, again, being the new guy walking in here. It was really clear to me that the older guys were tired of losing and they were going to do something about it. And I think I alluded to this a couple of weeks ago that, we had the 2-game losing streak that year and then one out in November. And but it takes the right players. You just can't. Coaches don't do that. That's players.
Did you know that Alex is a neuroscience major, and do you see that translate into how he leads the offense?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, sometimes those guys are kind of scary. The guys that are too smart, but that quarterback room's kind of been like that. Nate was back this past weekend, Stanley, and Drew Tate was a little departure to that, back 18 years ago, but a little bit of a different character. But that room's been pretty cerebral throughout. So, yeah, none of these guys surprised me. They're pretty good students and very serious about it. And it's a really credit to them because they work extremely hard. They put more prep work in, and I'm sure that's true in every program. Quarterbacks just have so much on their plate to be ready for a game, plus carry the academic load they do. So it's impressive.
How important is it to have that, considering the pro-style offense where the quarterback has a lot on their plate?
It helps, but I would also say I've been around football players, not just quarterbacks, where it's not, the test scores, my experience, and I found this out earlier in my career, test scores, majors don't always translate to football knowledge or common sense, football common sense, not just general. And some players have that better. Sometimes it's a guy that, they mentioned Drew grew up around football, his stepdad. And I'm not suggesting Drew's not a good student, okay? I'm not suggesting that at all. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. But he'd rather have a ball in his hand than a pen. I know that. I can say that's a fair statement with Drew. But that's how I grew up. Like, he was a gym rat and really, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it doesn't always translate. I used to joke that engineers don't always make good football players. Mike Elgin broke that rule. But, yeah, it's, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
When you look at Keegan Johnson, and sometimes the states, like Iowa and Nebraska are similar in this, where it's the one major focus, college football, and he's going back to his hometown. Or that home area, I should say, and then he's also a legacy player, or his dad was a legacy there, and then coupled with that, being young, what do you tell him, or do you tell him anything? Because mentally, being that young and going back into that kind of environment has some negative possibilities.
It does. First one is ticket request. Okay, it's number one on the list, and there's no getting around that. So as you're asking that question, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm an optimist, so I'm thinking positive thoughts, at least sometimes an optimist. And I'm thinking about Fisher going over there, and did he have 2 picks in that game, I think? His last game over there. And his dad played on there, and brother also. He had two siblings there. Thinking about Jovan Johnson coming up with a pick at Penn State, or Ed Hinkle laying out for a big touchdown back in Penn State. So I'm thinking the positive route, and hopefully he'll be ready to go. But the one thing about him, he just doesn't seem to be affected by anything thus far. Knock on wood, hope it stays that way. But he just seems to go out, and he's the same way at practice, just concentrates on what he's doing. And that's the best advice anybody can give him right now is just, play the game. It's another game. It's a big game, but it's another game, and just do your job like you've been doing.
Noah Fant was kind of that way too.
Yeah, Noah did okay over there. So that's another one, that positive column. I'm thinking positive. Yeah.
Given Keegan's connections with Nebraska and stuff, how hard was that recruiting process?
It's always hard, and hopefully it's hard when they come over here and steal our guys too, because that's happened. It's gone both ways. So, yeah, it's hard, but just for whatever reason our message resonated, and ultimately in recruiting, you hope the prospect finds a place where he feels most comfortable, and then more importantly, hope, 2-3 years later, they feel really good about that decision. I think so far, at least, I think he's pretty happy.
Speaking of,
How would you assess Tyler Goodson's progress this year?
I think he's doing well. Yeah, he's doing well. And talked about the offensive line. Tyler's certainly part of that equation, but, everybody in the offense, just our production gets tied in. And I'm not trying to, trash these guys by any stretch, but it just, if you're looking at it realistically, that's really where our biggest challenges were, mainly because of those injuries to Cody and, Kyler right off the bat. So we've been playing catch up pretty much all year, and we're not out of the woods yet, but at least I think, the arrow's starting to move the right way. And thought that, his production Saturday was probably tied in with the, maybe the improvement we're seeing with the guys up front.
He has to handle that roller coaster ride a little.
Yeah, he like talking about Keegan. I mean, Tyler's really, he's been that way, and I said that earlier. He just shows up every day, happy. He's happy's not the right word, but he's got a good energy to him, a good vibe, and he likes practicing, likes his teammates, and you don't see him too often look like he's down a little bit, so it's really positive. Nobody wants to be around droopy dog guys, right? I mean, it's not much fun. He's not that way at all.
what do you see as the next step in Arwen's development?
And whose?
Arwen, Bruce.
Just keep playing. I mean, it's like anybody. It's like those linemen. You got to keep playing. But he's doing a lot of good things. Keegan's doing a lot of good things, and other guys are too. I mean, it's just Charlie as a receiver is growing. So that's, all of a sudden now we've got some numbers there instead of being really, really thin.
There's something hanging out there in case you guys win and Wisconsin gets beat on Saturday by Minnesota, and that is Big Ten championship appearance. If you had discussions with your players about it, did you address it and say, okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore? I mean, how do you handle that?
I mean, pretty simply, our goal is to win this week. And then, right now it's not in our hands, so the only thing we can really worry about is win this game. And that's really what our focus is. And if there is a good thing here, at least we're off Saturday, so we'll watch how things unfold. But if we don't take care of our end of things, it won't matter anyway. So that's really what we got to focus on. These guys are in college; they're pretty smart. I think they know what's going on out there. And but the biggest thing it's kind of like trying to get to 9 wins. You got to win 8. So it's kind of the mode we're in right now.
Looking at the offense in November, it may not show statistically, but it just feels like they've made strides each week. Is that how it feels to you?
It does, and it's the opposite, or kind of like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, our opponent had 189 yards, I think it was, and it felt like 400. So it wasn't as bad as it felt, but it felt bad. And then it's kind of the flip of that, I guess. When you can't block consistently up front, it's hard. It's really hard because you can only scheme so much, or you can only it's hard to move the ball without blocking. I guess that's the bottom line, at least the way we do things. So yeah, I think now at least we can think realistically. We might have a chance to go in there and develop a little consistency. And the thing I've been encouraged by, and I was optimistic about probably 6 weeks ago. I really felt like if guys could practice, we would see improvement. But then, are they going to be able to practice? Because we had guys in and out, it seems like, every other day. So I think we're gaining a little bit of traction here. But, this will be another challenge this week. They've got some big guys in that front that are experienced.
You have players play hurt all the time and those who are sick, but to have your center play the kind of game he did, being had the flu, I think it was. Yeah. I mean, when you graded it out, what did you think?
He did fine. Yeah, he did fine. And you don't want to ever take anything for granted, but you're not surprised. I mean, Tyler, it would take a lot to get him out of the lineup. It really would. And it's been some instances since he's played where somebody rolls up on him or whatever, and he's just he shakes it off and keeps playing. So he is just he's a really nice guy, as you see when you interact with him. But he's a tenacious competitor. A lot of pride.
Is it hard to prepare for a quarterback when you don't have much to go off of and what they do?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it one more challenge. My guess is he fits their scheme, though. So, he's a really athletic guy. One of them is. And the other guy's a little bit younger. We don't know quite as much about, certainly. But, yeah, I mean, my guess is the scheme's going to stay pretty much the same. We'll have to defend a lot of different things. And, he's a really athletic guy. So that puts pressure on you when the quarterback can move around like this guy can.
been through a fair share of Thanksgiving games in your career. How do you kind of approach these type of weeks, especially for the younger guys, freshmen who probably haven't been away from their families for this first holiday?
Yeah.
You kind of coach them, tell them throughout the week.
There's a great Guy Fieri quote, you can Google it, I guess, but it talks about Thanksgiving and, what the spirit of the holiday, and then also mentions in his quote about, there are a lot of people that aren't at home, with their families. They're over, doing things nationally, internationally to help protect us, those types of things. So you can start right there. And I've always tried to share that at bowl games too, because a lot of times we're working over the holidays. And first of all, it's a short window for players. For coaches, it's kind of a lifetime thing. But there's a lot of other people making sacrifices not to be with their families. They're doing things that are really important. We're getting to play college football, so I think our guys understand that. And then that's one of the extra perks, in my opinion, about the Black Friday game is at least guys locally on Saturday get to be with their families over the weekend. And after a potentially, maybe an interruption here, but at least it's a nice break. And if we do have an interruption to that, that'd be fine. Nobody's going to argue about that. I know they understand that. But so it all works out. It works out, and it's it's kind of like a bonus day. You get Saturday off. It's a pretty good deal.
You guys are having a dinner tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Is there a select group that you always see that eats the most, I guess?
Oh, well, that's, you might be able to imagine that one. That's a slam dunk. Yeah, the linemen on both sides usually rack up that one. Yeah, easy.
The offensive line's development, one aspect late has been Jack Plum coming in at left tackle and playing well. What have you seen from him being able to kind of step into a tough spot and be able to produce?
About Jack? Yeah, it just, ironically last year this was his first start, I'm pretty sure. Insane. Of course, we still had 4 games to go last year. A little different, scenario, but I think he's grown immensely in that year's time, certainly, but also I think most importantly, we really seen it this past month. He just keeps working. He's extremely serious, really focused. Grew up in a football family too, although his parents didn't do it for a living, but his granddads did. But he just, he's a good, hard-working guy, conscientious. Really focuses. Kind of you want to recruit. That's a profile you look for, and I think he's starting to develop confidence in himself. And again, you can't hand it to somebody; they've got to earn it out there in the field. So it's been fun to watch that, and there's still more there for him. So it's good, and it's encouraging.
We've talked a lot about the offensive line youth, but defensive line, you've had a lot of young guys step up, Lucas Van Ness, Deontay Craig, Logan Lee. what have you seen, especially probably over the last 5 or 6 weeks, that really sort of put them on the upward trajectory?
Same thing, and I'd throw, Noah's been here, but hasn't played a lot. Logan Lee in that same category. Logan's had a lot of injuries. Noah's missed a lot of practice time. So that's again what I was referring to. The offense and defense to me are the same in a lot of ways, because if you're not out there doing it on a regular basis, it's really hard to start. And I use that term naturally. Guys look like they're a little bit more natural out there. I personally think that comes from just repetition. Every now and then you get a guy who just does stuff that you didn't necessarily teach, but most guys, they have to work at it and they need that time. And if you're not doing it on a consistent basis, it's hard to get there. But you look at Logan and look at Noah; they had their best game last week. So I think that's a result of them starting to get a little bit comfortable and understanding how to play. And outside of Zach, who makes up for the other guys, he's 33 years old. We're a pretty young group up there, experience-wise, but also chronologically, and that's exciting, because those guys will keep, as long as we keep them on the field, they'll keep getting better and get Herkett back in the mix. He's a high motor guy, so I think we'll get through it. But I was worried about that going into the season, just like the offensive side.
How have you seen Connor Colby approach going from last year playing preps at Kennedy to now this year playing Big Ten football?
Yeah, the first comparison I'd give you is Keegan. We talked about Keegan, and Connor just, it's funny. I went to visit him in his high school, whenever that was. It was kind of like Brady Reef was the same way. It was like a guy that couldn't wait to get out of high school and get on to his next step, and I was like, hey, let's slow it down, enjoy the prom, all that stuff. But, that's how he was. So when he got here last January, he was ready. He was ready mentally and excited about being here. And he like Keegan, doesn't seem overwhelmed out there, Arlen, the same way. They just kind of seem like they belong and fit. There's a little bit more action in where he's playing, but he's handled it pretty well. And then same thing, you're seeing more confidence, quicker reaction time now that he's, played some instead of just, being the first couple games. Okay, well, wish everybody a good Thanksgiving. You guys will enjoy it. We'll be traveling, and we'll see you on Friday. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.